The stars looked cold and empty in this part of space. Captain Han Wu stood on the bridge of his small salvage ship, the Morning Star, staring out at the darkness between galaxies. His crew had been searching for 3 weeks now, following old stories and half-forgotten legends about ships that vanished during humanity's dark times. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on the long-range scanners," called out Park Jun from his station. The young communications officer looked puzzled as he checked his instruments again. "It's big, really big." Han Wu walked over to look at the display. A massive shape appeared on the screen, floating silent and dead in the void. It was easily 10 times larger than their salvage ship. The metal hull gleamed dull gray in the starlight, covered in the angular lines that marked it as human-built. "How long has it been out here?" Han Wu asked quietly. So Ra, their chief engineer, ran the scanned data through her computers. She was small but tough, with quick hands and a sharp mind for technical problems. "The metal shows exposure to cosmic radiation for at least 500 years, Captain. Maybe longer. 500 years. That would put the ship from before the Great Subjugation, when the Valak's Empire had conquered humanity and scattered them across the galaxy as slaves and servants. Back then, humans had been trying to build their own empire among the stars. Those days seemed like ancient history now." "Can you identify the ship class?" Han Wu asked. So Ra worked at her station, comparing the massive vessel to old databases. "It matches the design of a Taeguk-class Dreadnought. But, Captain, those were just rumors. The histories say only one was ever built, and it was lost on its maiden voyage." Han Wu felt his heart beat faster. A Taeguk-class Dreadnought was the stuff of legends, the most powerful warship humanity had ever attempted to build. If the stories were true, it carried weapons that could destroy entire fleets and armor that could withstand planet-killing attacks. "Take us closer," he ordered. "Slowly." The Morning Star moved toward the giant ship like a tiny fish approaching a sleeping whale. As they got nearer, they could see the name painted on the hull in faded letters. "Taeguk's Fury. There's no energy. Signature," Park Jun reported. "The ship appears to be completely dead." "Appears to be," So Ra said carefully. "But ships this size had backup systems within backup systems. Something might still be working deep inside." Han Wu made his decision. "Prep the boarding shuttle. So Ra, you're with me. Park Jun, stay here and monitor communications. If anything goes wrong, get out of here fast." The journey to the Dreadnought's docking bay took 20 minutes. The bay doors stood open as if the ship had been abandoned quickly. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the walls, powered by some deep reserve that had lasted 5 centuries. Their boots echoed in the empty corridors as they made their way toward the ship's heart. The Taeguk's Fury was built for a crew of thousands, but now it felt like a tomb. Dust covered everything, and their flashlight beams cut through the darkness like swords. "The architecture is amazing," So Ra whispered, running her hand along a wall panel. "Look at these systems. This technology is more advanced than anything we have now." They found the main computer core 3 levels down. It was a massive room filled with processing units that hummed quietly with residual power. So Ra connected her portable terminal to one of the access ports. "I'm getting a response," she said, surprise clear in her voice. "Something is still active in here." The screens around them flickered to life one by one. Green text began scrolling across the displays faster than they could read. Then a voice spoke from hidden speakers, clear and strong despite the centuries of silence. "Scanning. Human DNA confirmed. Vocal patterns, Korean regional variant. Threat assessment, minimal. Welcome aboard the TNS Taeguk's Fury. I am the ship's artificial intelligence. My designation is Ghost. Han Wu and So Ra looked at each other in amazement. A functioning AI from the old days was beyond their wildest hopes. Ghost, Han Wu said carefully. How long have you been waiting here? 487 years, 212 days, 14 hours, and 36 minutes, Ghost replied immediately. I have been maintaining minimal systems and waiting for human personnel to return. Return from where? So, Ra asked. The crew abandoned ship during our final battle with Valak's forces. They took the escape pods and emergency shuttles, hoping to draw the enemy away from the ship. My last orders were to wait and protect the ship's secrets until humans could return to claim them. So Ra's fingers flew over her terminal, accessing the ship's databases. What she found made her gasp. Captain, this ship has technology I've never seen before. Weapon systems, shield generators, faster-than-light drives that are completely beyond anything in use today. The Taeguk's Fury was humanity's answer to Valak's superiority, Ghost explained. Every system on this ship was designed to level the playing field between human ingenuity and alien technology. Han Wu felt a chill run down his spine. Ghost, what happened to the rest of humanity after you were abandoned here? I have been monitoring radio transmissions for centuries, Ghost said sadly. Humanity was defeated. The Valak's empire rules. The galaxy now, with humans serving as laborers and servants. But I have detected scattered communities, hidden colonies that escaped the conquest. They are waiting for someone to unite them again. So Ra pulled up a star map on her screen. Dozens of red dots appeared, scattered across the galaxy. These are human colonies? Hidden settlements that maintained their independence, Ghost confirmed. They have been silent for centuries, afraid to reveal themselves. But they still exist. They still hope. Han Wu stared at the map. Thousands of humans, maybe millions, living in secret and waiting for a chance to be free again. And here was the weapon that could give them that chance. Ghost, can this ship still fight? All weapon systems are functional. Shields are operational. The reality warping engine is in standby mode, ready for activation. The Taeguk's Fury is ready to fulfill her destiny, Captain. A new voice crackled over their communication system. It was Park Jun calling from their salvage ship. Captain, we have a problem. I'm detecting Valak's ships approaching our position. 3 cruisers and a battle carrier. They'll be here in 2 hours. Han Wu looked at So Ra, then at the screens showing Ghost's data. In 2 hours, they could run back to their ship and escape. But they would be leaving behind the greatest discovery in human history. Ghost, he said firmly. How long would it take to bring this ship to full power? With a human crew to assist, approximately 90 minutes. So Ra grinned. Then we'd better get started. As alarms began to sound throughout the ancient Dreadnought, 3 humans and 1 very patient AI began the work of awakening humanity's greatest weapon. The Taeguk's Fury had waited 500 years for this moment. Soon the galaxy would remember why humans were never meant to be slaves. Park Jun's fingers moved quickly across his communication panel aboard the Morning Star. The approaching Valak ships were still an hour away, but he could already see their energy signatures growing stronger on his sensors. 3 cruisers and a battle carrier meant serious trouble. Captain, the Valak's fleet is maintaining course, he reported through his headset. They're definitely coming for us. Deep inside the Taeguk's Fury, Han Wu and So Ra worked frantically to bring the ancient systems online. Ghost's voice guided, them through corridors filled with 500 years of dust and silence. Primary power coupling is located in Section 7, Ghost said calmly. Engineer So-Ra, you will need to manually reset the plasma flow regulators. They have been in standby mode for too long. So-Ra crawled through a maintenance tunnel, her tools scattered around her as she worked on systems that were more advanced than anything she had studied. These power systems are incredible, she called out. No wonder the Valaks were afraid of this ship. The Taeguk's Fury was designed to be operated by a crew of 3,000, Ghost explained as Han Wu made his way to the bridge. However, in emergency situations, the ship can function with minimal personnel. The AI systems can handle most operational tasks. The bridge was enormous, with command stations arranged in a circle around a central captain's chair. Screens and control panels lined the walls, all dark and waiting. When Han Wu sat in the captain's chair, lights began to flicker on around him. "Welcome, Captain," Ghost said. "Bridge systems are coming online. I am uploading tactical data from our last engagement with Valak's forces." Images appeared on the main screen showing space battles from 5 centuries ago. Human ships fought desperately against sleek Valak's vessels that moved like silver fish through space. The humans were outnumbered 10 to 1, but they fought with desperate courage. "We never had a chance," Han Wu said quietly, watching the old battle footage. "Numbers were against us," Ghost agreed. "But the Taeguk's Fury was built to change those odds. Our weapons systems were designed to exploit weaknesses in Valak's technology that they never knew existed." So Ra's voice crackled over the communication system. "Power couplings are reset. I'm reading energy buildup throughout the ship." "Excellent," Ghost said. "Beginning system activation sequence. Captain, please place your hand on the biometric scanner." Han Wu pressed his palm against a glowing panel beside his chair. The scanner read his DNA, his fingerprints, even his brain patterns. Across the ship, systems that had slept for centuries began to wake up. "Human genetic profile confirmed," Ghost announced. "Captain Han Wu, you are now recognized as commanding officer of the TNS Taeguk's Fury. All ship systems are at your disposal." The main screen lit up with tactical displays. Han Wu could see everything around them for thousands of kilometers. The 3 Valak's cruisers were sleek and dangerous-looking, their hulls gleaming like polished metal. The battle carrier was massive, easily 3 times the size of a cruiser with launch bays for hundreds of fighter craft. "Ghost, show me our weapons," Han Wu said. New displays appeared, showing weapon systems that defied everything Han Wu knew about space combat. Plasma cannons that could punch through any known armor, missile systems that could track targets across star systems, and something called a reality anchor that he didn't understand at all. "The reality anchor is our most unique weapon," Ghost explained, somehow reading his thoughts. "It allows us to manipulate the fundamental forces of physics in a limited area. Valak's shields work by deflecting energy around their ships. The reality anchor makes deflection impossible." Park Jun's voice came through the communication system, tight with worry. "Captain, the Valak ships are hailing us. They're demanding we surrender and prepare to be boarded." "Tell them we're just a salvage vessel," Han Wu replied. "Buy us more time." On the bridge of the lead Valak's cruiser, Admiral Kim Bo studied the scanner readings with growing suspicion. She had served the Valak's empire for 20 years, ever since she had betrayed her own species for a position of power. The humans called her a traitor, but she preferred to think of herself as a survivor. The energy readings from that derelict ship are increasing, her tactical officer reported. The officer was Valak's, with pale blue skin and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. Kim Bo leaned forward in her command chair. Increasing how much? Exponentially. Whatever they found. Over there, it's waking up. Kim Bo had heard rumors about human dreadnoughts from the old war. Ships so powerful that the Valek's High Command had ordered them destroyed rather than captured. She had always assumed the stories were exaggerated. "Open a channel to that salvage ship," she ordered. Park Jun's face appeared on her screen, trying to look innocent and harmless. "This is the civilian vessel Morning Star. We're conducting legal salvage operations in unclaimed space. I am Admiral Kim Bo of the Valek's Imperial Navy," she said coldly. "You are in possession of prohibited technology. Stand down immediately or we will open fire." "I don't know what you mean," Park Jun said. "We're just looking for scrap metal." "Kim." Bo cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. "Power up all guns. If that ship tries to move, destroy it." Back on the Taeguk's Fury, So-Ra had reached the main engineering section. The room was as large as a cathedral, filled with machinery that hummed with growing power. At the center stood the ship's main computer core, a crystalline structure that pulsed with blue light. "Ghost, I'm reading some unusual energy patterns from the main drive," she reported. "Those are normal fluctuations for a reality warping engine," Ghost replied. "The drive does not simply move the ship through space, it moves space around the ship." So Ra stared at the readouts in amazement. "That's impossible. You can't manipulate space-time with technology." "You cannot," Ghost said. "But humans can. The drive requires human consciousness to function. Human creativity and intuition guide the warping process. It was humanity's greatest achievement. And the Valeks? The Valeks think in straight lines. Their minds work like computers, logical and predictable. They cannot understand or replicate human intuition. That is why this ship was so dangerous to them." Hanwoo studied the tactical display as the Valek's ships moved closer. "Ghost, how long until we have full power?" 15 minutes, Captain. "But I should warn you. Once we activate the main weapons, every Valek's ship in this sector will detect us. They will know the Taeguk's Fury has returned." "Let them know," Hanwoo said grimly. "It's time they remembered what humans can do when we fight back." The lights on the bridge grew brighter as more systems came online. 500 years of silence were ending. The Taeguk's Fury was awakening, and with it, humanity's hope for freedom. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, on secret colonies and underground settlements, old communication systems began to receive, a signal they had waited centuries to hear. Ghost was reaching out across the stars, sending activation codes to every human who still remembered how to fight. The Valek's Empire had ruled the galaxy for 500 years. That was about to change. Admiral Kim Bo watched the scanner readings with growing alarm. The derelict ship was no longer derelict. Energy signatures were spiking across all spectrums, and the massive vessel was beginning to move. After 500 years of silence, something very dangerous was waking up. "Battle stations," she ordered. Her crew moved quickly to their positions. The 3 cruisers and the battle carrier formed an attack formation around the ancient human ship. "Tactical. What are we looking at?" Her Valek's tactical officer studied the readings with his large black eyes. "The ship matches historical records for a Taeguk-class dreadnought. Length, 2 kilometers. Mass, unknown. Weapon systems, unknown. Current threat level, extreme." Kim Bo felt ice in her stomach. She had studied the old war records. Human dreadnoughts had been the stuff of nightmares for Valek's commanders. Ships that could fight entire fleets and win. "That's impossible," she said. All the dreadnoughts were destroyed during the final campaign. Apparently, not all of them. On the bridge of the Taeguk's Fury, Han Wu sat in the captain's chair as systems continued to come online around him. The main screen showed the 4 Valak ships arranged in attack formation. They looked small compared to his massive vessel, but he knew they carried enough firepower to destroy cities. Ghost, what are our tactical options? We have several advantages, the AI replied calmly. Our armor is designed to absorb Valak's plasma weapons. Our shields can deflect their missiles, and our weapons can penetrate their defenses. How many weapons do we have? Primary plasma cannons, 48. Secondary pulse batteries, 96. Torpedo tubes, 24. Reality anchor, 1. Han Wu whistled softly. His little salvage ship carried 2 small laser cannons for cutting through scrap metal. The Taeguk's Fury was a floating weapons platform. Sora's voice came through the communication system from the engineering section. Captain, I'm reading full power on all systems. The reality warping engine is ready for activation. Park Jun, open a channel to the Valak ships, Han Wu ordered. The main screen switched to show Admiral Kim Bo on the bridge of her cruiser. She looked older than Han Wu had expected, with gray streaking her black hair and lines around her eyes. But there was something cold and hard about her that spoke of years serving alien masters. I am Captain Han Wu of the human vessel Taeguk's Fury, he said formally. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this area. Kimbo laughed, but there was no humor in it. Captain Han Wu, you are commanding a 500-year-old relic with a crew of 3 people. I have 4 modern warships and enough firepower to crack a moon. Surrender now, and I might let your crew live. 20 seconds. Han Wu said calmly. You're insane. That ship hasn't fired a shot in 5 centuries. How do you even know the weapons work? 15 seconds. Kimbo's face showed real anger now. I am Admiral Kim Bo of the Valak's Imperial Navy. I have served the Empire for 20 years. I will not be threatened by salvage crews playing with antique toys. Time's up, Han Wu said, and cut the transmission. He turned to the weapons console that had appeared beside his chair. Ghost, target the cruiser on our starboard side. Fire 1 plasma cannon. Firing. The Taeguk's Fury barely shook as one of its massive weapons discharged. A beam of pure energy lanced across space, brighter than a star. Kimbo watched in horror as the beam struck her escort cruiser's shields. The shields lasted exactly 1 second. Then the beam punched through the ship's armor like it was paper, cutting the cruiser completely in half. The 2 pieces spun away, into space, trailing atmosphere and debris. Impossible, Kimbo whispered. Their shields were rated for maximum Valak's firepower. Her tactical officer was studying the readings frantically. Admiral, that weapon operates on principles I don't understand. It's not just powerful, it's completely bypassing our defensive systems. On the Taeguk's Fury, Han Wu studied the tactical display. The destroyed cruiser was breaking apart, but the other 3 ships were moving to attack positions. Ghost, what makes our weapons so effective against Valak ships? Valak's technology is based on energy deflection and absorption, Ghost explained. Their shields work by redirecting force around their vessels. Human weapons from this era were designed to make deflection impossible. How? By attacking the fundamental structure of space-time itself. We don't just fire energy at them, we fire reality at them. Kimbo's remaining ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts and missile barrages streaked toward the human dreadnought like a swarm of angry wasps. The weapons struck the Taeguk's Fury's shields and simply vanished, absorbed by barriers that fed on directed energy. "Return fire," Han Wu ordered. "All forward weapons." The space around the Taeguk's Fury lit up like a miniature sun as dozens of weapons fired simultaneously. The second Valex cruiser tried to evade, but the human targeting systems predicted its movements perfectly. It died in a flash of expanding plasma. The battle carrier launched its fighter squadrons, hoping to overwhelm the dreadnought with numbers. 200 small attack craft swarmed toward the human ship like metal insects. "Ghost, can our point defense handle that many fighters?" "Easily. Activating automated defense grid." The Taeguk's Fury's hull bristled with small weapon turrets that tracked the incoming fighters with mechanical precision. Streams of energy lanced out, and the Valex fighters began exploding like fireworks. In 30 seconds, the entire squadron was destroyed. Kim Bo stared at her tactical display in disbelief. 2 cruisers and 200 fighters destroyed in less than 5 minutes. Her remaining cruiser and the battle carrier were pulling back, but she knew it was too late. "Admiral," her communication officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission from the human ship." Han Wu's face appeared on her screen again. He looked calm and confident, nothing like the desperate salvage captain she had expected to crush. "Admiral Kim Bo," he said, "I'm going to make you an offer. You can continue this fight and watch. Your remaining ships die, or you can withdraw and tell your superiors that humanity is no longer defenseless." Kim Bo felt something she hadn't experienced in 20 years of service to the Valex Empire: fear. Real, bone-deep terror of what human technology could do when it was unleashed. "This isn't over," she said. "No," Han Wu agreed. "It's just beginning. The Taeguk's Fury has been sleeping for 500 years. Now we're awake, and we're going to wake up every human in the galaxy." Kim Bo cut the transmission and turned to her navigator. "Set course for the nearest Imperial base. Maximum speed." As the 2 surviving Valex ships fled into hyperspace, Ghost's voice filled the bridge of the Taeguk's Fury. "Captain, I am transmitting activation codes to human settlements throughout the galaxy. The resistance networks are receiving our signal." "How many settlements?" 47 colonies, 12 hidden space stations, 6 underground cities, approximately 2 million humans total. Han Wu felt a surge of hope unlike anything he had experienced in his life. 2 million humans who had been living in secret, waiting for someone to show them that freedom was possible. "Send them our coordinates," he ordered. "Tell them the war isn't over. Tell them it's just beginning again." Across the galaxy, on hidden worlds and secret bases, humans who had lived their entire lives under Valex rule received Ghost's message. The codes activated old communication networks and awakened sleeping weapon caches. For the first time in 5 centuries, humanity began to unite again. The Valex Empire had ruled through fear and superior technology. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had allowed humans to survive. And humans, as the Taeguk's Fury had just demonstrated, were very good at fighting back when they had the right tools. The galaxy was about to rediscover why humanity had once been considered the most dangerous species in known space. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, Li Te received Ghost's transmission while working the night shift in a Valex mineral processing plant. He had been a slave laborer for 15 years, ever since the Valex discovered his hidden colony and dragged him away from his family. But before that, he had been a soldier. The message came through on an old communication device hidden in his work locker. Ancient code patterns that his grandfather had taught him, signals that were supposed to be impossible to send or receive. But here they were, clear and strong. Activation codes for Operation Sunrise. Li Tay smiled for the first time in years. Operation Sunrise was a myth, a legend whispered among human workers when the Valex guards weren't listening. The story said that one day, humanity's greatest weapon would return and signal the start of a final uprising. Most people thought it was just a fairy tale to keep hope alive. They were wrong. The processing plant employed 3,000 human workers across 3 shifts. Most of them were descendants of conquered colonies, people who had never known freedom, but dreamed of it anyway. Li Tay began moving through the facility, spreading Ghost's message to anyone he trusted. "Tonight," he whispered to his work crew, "pass the word. Tonight we take back our world." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, in hidden bases and secret colonies, humans who had waited their entire lives for this moment began to act. Ghost's transmission had included detailed tactical plans, weapon cache locations, and coordination protocols that had been waiting 500 years to be used. Aboard the Teguk's Fury, So-Ra worked frantically to understand the ship's most mysterious system, the reality warping engine. She had brought up the technical specifications on her engineering station, but the principles behind the technology seemed impossible. "Ghost, I'm trying to understand how this engine actually works," she said, studying the complex diagrams on her screen. "The mathematics don't make sense." "That is because the mathematics are incomplete," Ghost replied. "Valex science is based on pure logic and calculation. They can predict how energy and matter behave according to universal laws. But the reality engine operates on principles that logical minds cannot grasp, such as human intuition, creativity, the ability to imagine things that should not be possible and then make them possible anyway." So Ra shook her head. "You're talking about magic, not science." "The difference between magic and science is understanding," Ghost said. "Humans have always had the ability to bend reality through force of will. Your species calls it luck, inspiration, or miracles. The reality engine simply amplifies that natural ability, and the Valex can't use it. Their minds work like computers. They process information efficiently, but they cannot think beyond the boundaries of known physics. A Valex scientist can tell you exactly how a plasma cannon works, but cannot imagine a weapon that fires pure possibility." On the bridge, Han Wu monitored communications from across the galaxy. Reports were flooding in from human settlements that had remained hidden for centuries. Ghost was coordinating everything using communication, networks that the Valex had never suspected existed. "Captain," Park Jun called from his station, "I'm receiving a priority message from the Kepler system. It's Li Tay." A rough-looking man appeared on the main screen. He had scars on his face and calloused hands that spoke of hard labor, but his eyes burned with determination. "Captain Han Wu," Li Tay said, "I have 2,000 humans ready to move on 3 industrial worlds. We can take the Valex processing facilities and their communication arrays, but we need to know you're really there. We need to know this isn't just another false hope." "We're here," Han Wu replied. "The Teguk's Fury is operational and ready. To support resistance operations, what do you need?" "Proof. Something the Valex will understand." Han Wu thought for a moment. "Ghost, are there any Valex military installations in the Kepler system?" "One orbital weapons platform. It monitors traffic for 3 star systems and coordinates Valak's patrol fleets in the region. Can we reach it? The reality engine can transport us anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously. We simply need to imagine being there. Hanwoo turned to So-Ra. How confident are you about operating the reality engine? So-Ra looked at the control interface, which resembled nothing she had ever seen. Instead of buttons and switches, it had what looked like a meditation chamber with neural interface connections. I have no idea how to use it, she admitted. But I'm willing to try. The engine requires a direct mental connection, Ghost explained. You must link your consciousness to the ship's systems and then imagine our destination. The ship will follow your thoughts. So Ra entered the meditation chamber and placed the neural interface headset over her temples. Immediately, she felt her mind expand to encompass the entire ship. She could sense every system, every weapon, every corridor. The Taeguk's fury felt like an extension of her own body. Think about the Kepler system, Ghost instructed. Picture the orbital weapons platform. Imagine us being there. So Ra closed her eyes and concentrated. In her mind, she could see the Kepler system. 3 yellow stars surrounded by industrial, worlds and mining operations. The Valak's weapons platform hung in space like a metallic spider, bristling with guns and sensor arrays. Space around the Taeguk's fury began to bend and twist. Reality folded in on itself as the ship's engines reached out across the galaxy and grabbed their destination. In an instant that felt like an eternity, they were no longer between galaxies. They were in the Kepler system, directly behind the weapons platform. Incredible, So-Ra whispered. We just traveled 3,000 light-years in 1 second. The Valak's weapons platform's alarms began screaming as sensors detected the massive human ship that had appeared from nowhere. Automated defense systems swiveled toward the Taeguk's fury, but they were designed to fight normal ships, not reality-warping dreadnoughts. Ghost, minimal force, Hanwoo ordered. We want to disable it, not destroy it. Understood. Firing precision. Plasma bursts. The Taeguk's fury's weapons spoke with surgical precision. Each shot struck a specific system on the weapons platform. Shield generators, weapon batteries, communication arrays. In 30 seconds, the platform was completely helpless, but still intact. Li Tei's voice came over the communication system, filled with amazement. Captain, we can see the weapons platform from here. It's completely dark. How did you do that so quickly? We have our ways, Hanwoo replied. Now it's your turn. Take those processing facilities. Across the 3 worlds of the Kepler system, the human uprising began. Workers who had been slaves for generations picked up hidden weapons and turned on their Valak's overseers. Processing plants that had operated for centuries suddenly went silent as humans took control of the machinery. The Valak's garrison forces tried to respond, but they had grown lazy over hundreds of years of easy dominance. They were used to dealing with individual troublemakers, not coordinated rebellions by thousands of organized humans. Li Tei led the assault on the main communication facility on Kepler 442b. His team moved through the building like ghosts, using maintenance tunnels and service corridors that the Valaks had never bothered to monitor. Within an hour, they controlled the planet's entire communication network. This is Li Tei broadcasting on all frequencies, he announced over the planetary communication system. People of the Kepler system, this is our day. The human ship Taeguk's Fury has returned to free us from slavery. Rise up and take back what belongs to us. Similar uprisings were happening throughout the galaxy as Ghost's activation codes reached more and more hidden human settlements. On agricultural worlds, miners' colonies, and industrial centers, humans who had lived their entire lives under Valak's rule suddenly remembered what it meant to be free. But So Ra was discovering something troubling about the reality engine. Each time she used it, she could feel it drawing energy not just from the ship's power systems, but from her own life force. "Ghost," she said quietly, "using this engine. What does it cost?" "The reality engine requires human consciousness to function," Ghost replied. "Each use draws upon the operator's mental and physical energy. Extended use can be dangerous." "How dangerous?" The original crew of the Tigux Fury included 12 reality engine operators. They worked in shifts to prevent any one person from being overly taxed by the system. So Ra realized the problem immediately. "We only have 3 people. Yes, we will need to be very careful about how often we use the reality engine. But for now, the Resistance needs our support." Reports continued to flood in from across the galaxy. 17 worlds had successful uprisings in the first 6 hours. 23 more were in progress. The Valak's Empire, which had ruled unopposed for 5 centuries, was suddenly facing coordinated rebellion on dozens of fronts. Admiral Kimbo's warnings had reached the Valak's High Council, but they had been dismissed as the ravings of a defeated commander. The Council could not believe that a single human ship could threaten their vast empire. They were about to learn that they had seriously underestimated human determination. The Tigux Fury was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of hope that humanity had never forgotten how to fight, and now that hope was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Supreme Overlord Vextar stood before the great viewing wall of the Valak's High Council chamber, watching as star maps flickered with red warning lights. Each light represented a human uprising, a world in rebellion, a crack in the empire that had ruled the galaxy for 500 years. 17 worlds have gone dark in the past 12 hours, reported his intelligence chief, a tall Valax with pale blue skin and the characteristic large black eyes of his species. Communication with 43 more colonies is intermittent. The humans are coordinating their attacks. Vextar's fingers tapped against the smooth metal of his command throne. He had ruled the Valak's Empire for over a century, expanding their territory and crushing any species that dared to resist. But he had never seen anything like this. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. "Our reports suggest a single vessel. Admiral Kimbo encountered it in the Outer Rim territories. A human dreadnought from their ancient fleet." "One ship," Vextar said slowly. "One ship is causing all of this chaos? The ship appears to have technology that our forces cannot counter. Admiral Kimbo lost 2 cruisers and a fighter squadron in minutes." Vextar turned from the viewing wall to face the assembled council. 12 of the most powerful Valaks in Chi, the galaxy sat in their hovering chairs, their expressions cold and calculating. They had grown comfortable with absolute power, and the idea of serious human resistance was almost incomprehensible to them. "Council members," Vextar said formally, "we face the greatest threat to our empire since the original conquest. I am declaring a state of emergency and mobilizing the Grand Fleet." Councilor Zethra, the oldest member of the council, leaned forward in her chair. "Supreme Overlord, surely you are not suggesting that one human ship poses a genuine threat to our empire? We have 10,000 warships across the galaxy." "That human ship just appeared instantaneously in the Kepler system and disabled our weapons platform without taking any damage," Vextar replied sharply. "It is using technology that we do not understand and cannot predict. Every day we delay, more worlds fall into rebellion." Meanwhile, aboard the Tyaguk's Fury, So-Ra was pushing herself to the limit operating the reality engine. In the past 18 hours, she had transported the ship to 7 different star systems, providing support for human uprisings across the galaxy. Each jump was taking a greater toll on her body and mind. "Captain," she said weakly as she stepped out of the reality engine chamber, "I don't think I can make many more jumps today. The strain is getting too intense." Han Wu looked at her with concern. So-Ra's face was pale and she was shaking slightly. Dark circles under her eyes showed the cost of bending space-time through pure force of will. "How long do you need to recover?" he asked. "At least 12 hours of rest. Maybe more." Ghost's voice filled the bridge. "Captain, I am receiving urgent communications from resistance cells throughout the galaxy. The Valaks are mobilizing massive fleets to crush the uprisings. Our people need immediate support." Han Wu studied the tactical displays showing Valak's fleet movements. Hundreds of ships were converging on rebellious worlds, carrying enough firepower to sterilize entire planets. The humans fighting on those worlds had courage and determination, but they couldn't stand against that kind of military force. "Ghost, can you operate the reality engine without a human operator?" "No, Captain. The engine requires human consciousness to function. Valak's minds think in straight lines and cannot manipulate reality. AI systems like myself can process information but cannot truly imagine. Only humans have the creativity necessary to make the impossible possible." Park Jun looked up from his communication station. "Captain, I'm receiving a message from Li Tae in the Kepler system. Valak's reinforcements are 12 hours out. He's requesting immediate extraction for his people." "How many people?" 5,000 humans across the 3 worlds. They've taken control of the industrial facilities, but they can't hold against a full Valak's assault fleet." Han Wu looked at So-Ra, who was barely standing upright. "Can you make one more jump?" "I'll try," she said, moving back toward the reality engine chamber, "but I don't know if I can get us back out again." "Do it." So-Ra connected to the reality engine one more time, feeling the ship's consciousness merge with her own. The strain was incredible now, like trying to lift a mountain with her bare hands. But she focused on the Kepler system, imagining the 3 industrial worlds where thousands of humans were waiting for rescue. Space folded around the Tyaguk's Fury as reality bent to human will. When the ship materialized in Kepler space, So-Ra collapsed unconscious in the engine chamber. "Medical emergency and engineering," Han Wu called out, but there was no medical team aboard their tiny crew. He and Park Jun would have to handle So-Ra's condition themselves. Li Tae's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain, thank God you're here. Valak's ships are already entering the outer system. We have transports ready to evacuate our people, but we need cover." Han Wu looked at the tactical display. A Valak's assault fleet was approaching fast. 6 battle cruisers, 2 carriers, and dozens of support vessels. It was 10 times larger than the force that had fled from them before. "Ghost, can we fight that many ships?" "Our weapons are superior to theirs individually, but they have overwhelming numbers. And without the reality engine, we cannot use hit-and-run tactics. Then we make our stand here." The evacuation began immediately. Human transports launched from the 3 worlds, carrying families, resistance fighters, and anyone else who wanted to escape Valak's rule. The Tyaguk's Fury positioned itself between the evacuation convoy and the approaching fleet. Admiral Kim Bo commanded the lead battlecruiser, determined to redeem herself after her earlier defeat. She had studied every piece of data about the human Dreadnought, looking for weaknesses and tactical advantages. "All ships, maintain formation," she broadcast to her fleet. "Focus fire on the Dreadnought's engine sections. If we can disable their propulsion, they cannot escape." The Valak's fleet opened fire at maximum range, sending hundreds of plasma bolts and missiles toward the Taeguk's fury. The human ship's shields absorbed the initial barrage, but Han Wu could see the energy levels dropping on his tactical display. "Return. Fire," he ordered. "All weapons, focus on the lead cruisers." The Taeguk's fury's plasma cannons spoke with devastating effect. The first Valak's cruiser simply disintegrated under the concentrated fire. The second cruiser tried to evade, but the human targeting systems tracked its movements perfectly and destroyed it with a single volley. But the remaining Valak ships pressed their attack, coordinating their fire to overwhelm the Dreadnoughts. Defenses. Dozens of ships fired simultaneously, creating an almost solid wall of energy that slammed into the human vessel. "Shields down to 60%, Park Jun reported from his station. "Hull integrity holding, but we're taking damage." The evacuation transports were making progress, but they were slow and vulnerable. Half the human refugees were still on the surface, waiting for pickup. The Taeguk's fury had to hold the line until everyone was safely away. "Ghost, do we have any other weapon systems? Something that doesn't require the reality engine?" "We have the matter conversion torpedoes," Ghost replied. "They were designed as a last resort weapon. Each torpedo can destroy multiple capital ships, but they are limited in number." "How many do we have?" 6. Han Wu watched the tactical display as more Valak ships entered the system. Admiral Kim Bo was coordinating a classic hammer and anvil attack, using her superior numbers to surround the human ship and pound it into submission. "Fire 2 torpedoes at the carrier group," Han Wu ordered. The torpedoes streaked across space, moving faster than anything the Valaks had ever seen. When they struck the first carrier, the ship didn't just explode. It converted into pure energy, taking 3 escort vessels with it in a blast that lit up the entire system. The second torpedo struck the remaining carrier, producing an identical result. In seconds, the Valaks had lost both carriers and 6 escort ships. "Impossible," Admiral Kim Bo whispered, watching the explosions fade. "What kind of weapons are those?" Her tactical officer was studying the sensor readings frantically. "Admiral, those torpedoes converted matter directly into energy. The yield was equivalent to a small star going nova. But the Valaks still had numbers on their side. The remaining cruisers and destroyers continued their attack, wearing down the Taeguk's fury's defenses through sheer persistence. The human ship was powerful, but it was still just one vessel against an entire fleet. "Shields down to 30%, Park Jun reported. "We're taking hull damage on decks 7 through 12. In the engineering section, So-Ra slowly regained consciousness. Her head felt like it was splitting apart, and her vision was blurry, but she could hear the sounds of battle echoing through the ship. "Ghost," she whispered weakly. "Status report." "We are engaged with a superior Valak's force. Evacuation is 70% complete, but our defenses are failing. Without the reality engine, we cannot disengage." So Ra forced herself to stand, using the wall for support. "How many more people need to be evacuated?" 1,500 humans are still waiting for transport. She looked at the reality engine chamber. Her body was screaming at her not to attempt another jump, but 1,500 people would die if she... So Ra staggered into the reality engine chamber as explosions shook the Taeguk's fury. The Valak's fleet was pounding the Dreadnought with everything they had, and the ship's shields were failing fast. She could feel each hit like a physical blow to her own body. "Ghost?" she called out as she reached for the neural interface. "I need to connect not just myself, but the entire crew to the reality engine. Is that possible?" "The system was designed for multiple operators," Ghost replied. "But linking 3 minds instead of 12 will create an unprecedented strain on all participants." "Can it be done?" "Yes, but the risk of permanent mental damage is extremely high." So Ra placed the neural interface over her temples and immediately felt her consciousness expand throughout the ship. But this time, instead of bearing the load alone, she reached out to Han Wu and Park Jun through the ship's communication systems. "Captain, Park Jun, I need you to link your minds to the reality engine. We can't fight this fleet with conventional weapons." On the bridge, Han Wu felt a strange tingling in his head as Ghost activated secondary neural interfaces at their stations. "What exactly are we going to do?" "We're going to show the Valeks what human imagination can really accomplish," So Ra replied. The 3 human minds connected through the reality engine, their consciousness merging with the ship's systems and with each other. Suddenly, Han Wu could see the battle from every angle simultaneously. Park Jun could feel the strain on every system throughout the massive vessel, and So Ra could sense the fundamental structure of space-time itself. "Think together," Ghost instructed them. "Imagine solutions that should be impossible. Let your creativity guide the ship's systems." The first impossible thing they imagined was phase shifting. The Taiguk's fury began to flicker in and out of normal space, becoming temporarily intangible as Valek's weapons passed harmlessly through its hull. Admiral Kim Bo watched in horror as her fleet's concentrated fire had no effect on the human ship. "What are they doing?" she demanded of her tactical officer. "Unknown, Admiral. Our weapons are registering direct hits, but they're causing no damage." The second impossible thing was temporal displacement. Park Jun focused his mind on the ship's weapon systems, imagining plasma bolts that could strike their targets before they were fired. Valek's ships began exploding seemingly at random, hit by weapons that moved backward through time. But So Ra was thinking bigger. She reached out with her consciousness and touched the minds of every human in the evacuation convoy. 1,500. Refugees suddenly found themselves connected to the reality engine, their combined will adding to the ship's power. "Feel their hope," she told Han Wu and Park Jun. "Feel their desire for freedom." The combined consciousness of over 1,500 humans flowed through the reality engine. Each person contributed their own dreams and imagination to the ship's capabilities. A farmer from Kepler 442b imagined growing a forest in space that would hide the evacuation ships. A mechanic from Kepler 4422c visualized tools that could repair damaged ships instantly. A child dreamed of flying without a spacecraft. All of these impossible ideas became reality. The space around the Taiguk's fury suddenly filled with a massive crystal forest that grew from nothing, its branches providing cover for the evacuation. Transports. Damaged ships in the convoy found their hull breaches sealing themselves and their engines running more efficiently than ever before. And throughout the fleet, humans discovered they could survive in vacuum as long as they truly believed. They could fly. Admiral Kim Bo stared at her tactical display in complete bewilderment. The laws of physics seemed to have stopped working in the area around the human ship. Trees were growing in space. People were floating between ships without life support. Weapons were firing backward through time. "This is impossible," she whispered. Her tactical officer was checking and rechecking his instruments. "Admiral, our sensors are reading massive reality distortions throughout the combat zone. The humans appear to be manipulating the fundamental structure of space-time itself. But the Valix Empire had not conquered half the galaxy by giving up in the face of impossible odds. Kimbo rallied her remaining ships for one final assault. "All vessels, concentrate fire on the evacuation transports," she ordered. "If we cannot destroy their ship, we will destroy the people they're trying to save." The Valix fleet turned its weapons on the helpless civilian ships, but Han Wu was ready for them. Drawing on the combined will of every human in the convoy, he imagined the most impossible thing of all, that the evacuation ships were already safe, no matter what happened to them. Reality bent to accommodate human will. The Valix weapons fired and struck their targets, but the transports remained undamaged. Energy that should have destroyed them was converted into harmless light patterns that painted beautiful auroras across the hulls of the ships. "Evacuate all remaining personnel," Han Wu broadcast to the convoy. "The last transports are lifting off now." So Ra felt the strain of maintaining the reality distortions beginning to tear at her mind. Blood ran from her nose, and her vision was starting to blur. But she held on, drawing strength from the hope and determination of every human connected to the engine. "Captain," Park Jun said through gritted teeth, "I can't maintain this much longer. The mental strain is incredible." "Just a few more minutes," Han Wu replied, though he could feel his own consciousness beginning to fray at the edges. "Ghost? Status on the evacuation?" "Final transport launching now. All human personnel are clear of the surface." The last refugee ship lifted off from Kepler 442b, carrying the final group of humans who had chosen freedom over slavery. As it joined the convoy, Ra felt a surge of triumph from every person aboard every ship. "Time to go," she announced. Drawing. On the last reserves of their combined strength, the 3 crew members and 1,500 refugees imagined the entire convoy somewhere else, somewhere safe, somewhere the Valix could never find them. The reality engine reached out across space and grabbed a distant star system on the edge of the galaxy. A place called Haven, where other human refugees had built a hidden colony decades ago. In an instant that lasted forever, the entire convoy vanished from Kepler space. Admiral Kim Bo found herself staring at empty space where the human ships had been moments before. Her sensors showed no trace of them, no energy signatures, no indication of where they had gone. "Admiral," her communication officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the evacuation zone." The main screen flickered to life, showing Captain Han Wu on the bridge of the Taeguk's Fury. He looked exhausted but victorious. "Admiral Kim Bo," he said calmly, "you have just witnessed what happens when humans fight for something they believe in. We don't just use technology, we become one with it. We make it an extension of our will and our dreams." Kimbo's hands clenched into fists. "This isn't over, Captain. The Valix Empire will never surrender to human rebellion." "The Valix Empire has already lost," Han Wu replied. "You just don't know it yet. We're not fighting to conquer worlds or build an empire. We're fighting for the right to be free, and free humans are capable of anything." The transmission ended, leaving Kim Bo alone with her thoughts and the remnants of her fleet. Half her ships were destroyed or damaged, and she had nothing to show for it except the knowledge that humanity possessed technology beyond Valix understanding. In the hidden system of Haven, the evacuation convoy materialized safely among the asteroids and space stations of the refugee colony. 1,500 new arrivals stared in wonder at the sight of humans living free, building their own civilization without Valak's oversight. Aboard the Taiguk's Fury, the 3 crew members disconnected from the reality engine and collapsed in exhaustion. So Ra was unconscious again, her body pushed beyond its limits by the impossible things she had imagined into existence. But she was alive, and so were all the people they had saved. Ghost, Han Wu said weakly. How many human colonies are there? Like this one? 47 confirmed locations, possibly more that have maintained complete communication silence. Contact them all. Tell them what we've accomplished here. Tell them the time for hiding is over. Across the galaxy, in hidden bases and secret colonies, humans received Ghost's message along with tactical recordings of the Battle of Kepler. They watched in amazement as a single human ship and 3 crew members had defeated an entire Valak's fleet through pure force of imagination. The message was simple, but powerful. Humans were no longer helpless. They had remembered how to fight, and they had remembered that their greatest weapon was not technology, but the ability to dream of a better future and then make that dream real. The Valak's empire had ruled through fear and superior firepower for 500 years. But they had never faced an enemy that could rewrite the laws of physics through collective human will. The war for humanity's freedom was just beginning, and the humans had just proven that they could accomplish the impossible when they stood together. Li Tay stood in the command center of the Haven colony, watching as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. In the 3 days since the Battle of Kepler, human uprisings had erupted on over 200 worlds. The recordings of the Taiguk's Fury's impossible victory had spread through underground networks faster than the Valaks could stop them. "Sir," called out one of his communications operators, "we're getting a transmission from the Arcturus mining colonies. They've taken control of the orbital refineries and are requesting immediate support." "What about their ground forces?" Li Tay asked. "Still fighting. The miners have the orbital facilities, but Valak's troops control the main cities." Li Tay studied the tactical display showing human operations throughout the galaxy. Each green dot represented a successful uprising. Red dots showed ongoing battles. Yellow dots indicated colonies that were preparing to revolt but hadn't acted yet. There were far more dots than he had ever dared to hope for. In the medical bay of the Taiguk's Fury, So-Ra was slowly recovering from her ordeal with the reality engine. She had been unconscious for 2 days, and when she woke up, she could barely remember her own name. But Ghost had been monitoring her condition carefully. "Engineer." "So-Ra," the AI said gently. "How are you feeling?" "Like I've been hit by a starship," she replied weakly. "How long was I out?" 57 hours. You suffered severe neural exhaustion from operating the reality engine beyond safe parameters. So-Ra tried to sit up, but dizziness forced her back down. "The evacuation. Did everyone make it out?" "All 1,500 refugees are safe in the Haven colony. Your sacrifice saved many lives." "Good." She closed her eyes and tried to remember the feeling of being connected to so many minds at once. It had been overwhelming, but also incredible. For a brief time, she had felt the hopes and dreams of over 1,000 people flowing through her consciousness. On the bridge, Han Wu was coordinating with resistance cells throughout the galaxy. The Taiguk's Fury had become the symbol of human freedom, and its mere existence was inspiring uprisings everywhere. "Captain," Park Jun called from his communications station, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Kim Bo. Han Wu, frowned. Put her through. Kimbo appeared on the main screen, but she looked different than before. The cold confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like desperation. "Captain Han Wu," she said, "I need to speak with you." "Privately. We have nothing to discuss, Admiral. You serve the Valix Empire." "Not anymore." Kimbo's voice was quiet but firm. "I've been relieved of command and marked for execution. The Valix High Council blames me for your escape." Han Wu studied her face carefully. Kimbo had been his enemy, a human who had betrayed her own species for power. But something had changed in her expression. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm broadcasting this transmission from a stolen Valix cruiser with 300 human crew members who helped me escape. We want to join your resistance." Park Jun checked his sensors and confirmed that Kimbo's ship was indeed broadcasting human identification codes. The vessel was heavily damaged and appeared to be running dark to avoid Valix patrols. "What changed your mind?" Han Wu asked. Kimbo was quiet for a moment before answering. "I watched the recordings of your battle at Kepler. I saw what humans can accomplish when they fight for something they believe in. I realized that I've spent 20 years serving masters who see me as nothing more than a useful tool. You betrayed your own species. Yes, I did, and I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But right now, I have information that could help you win this war." Han Wu looked at Ghost's tactical display. Kimbo's ship was badly damaged and being pursued by Valix patrol vessels. If this was a trap, it was an elaborate one. What kind of information? The location of the Valix High Council's secret weapon. They're building something called the Reality Anchor, designed specifically to counter your ship's abilities. So, Ra's voice came over the communication system from the medical bay. "Captain, I've been listening. A reality anchor would be catastrophic for us. If the Valix can prevent us from manipulating space-time, we lose our greatest advantage." "How long until this weapon is operational?" Han Wu asked Kimbo. 7 days, maybe less. The Valix are pouring resources into the project faster than anything I've ever seen. They're genuinely terrified of what you accomplished at Kepler." Han Wu made his decision. "Transmit your coordinates. We'll extract you and your crew." Within hours, the Taeguk's Fury had rescued Kimbo and her 300 followers. The former Valix admiral stood on the bridge of the human Dreadnought, looking around at technology that was centuries ahead of anything the Empire possessed. "How is this possible?" she asked Ghost. "The Valix conquered humanity because our technology was inferior." "The Valix conquered humanity because humans were divided," Ghost replied. "Individual human ships were no match for Valix fleets. But the Taeguk's Fury was built to be operated by human consciousness itself. It doesn't just use advanced technology, it becomes an extension of human will and imagination." Kimbo turned to Han Wu. "The reality anchor is being constructed in the Terminus system at the edge of Valix space. It's a massive facility designed to project a field that stabilizes space-time and prevents reality manipulation. How well defended is it? The entire Valix Grand Fleet is protecting it. Over 1,000 capital ships, plus orbital defense platforms and fighter squadrons. It's the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. So Ra, who had managed to make it to the bridge despite her weakness, studied the tactical data that Kimbo provided. This is a problem. Even with the reality engine, we can't fight 1,000 ships. We don't have to fight them all. Li Tei's voice came over the communication system from Haven. While the Valix are concentrating their forces at Terminus, their other worlds are barely defended. We can hit 50 systems simultaneously. Hanwoo saw the strategy immediately. Force them to divide their fleet. Exactly. Every ship they send to defend their colonies is one less ship protecting the reality anchor. Ghost began coordinating, with resistance cells throughout the galaxy. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humans had attempted since the original conquest. Synchronized attacks on 50 Valek systems, all timed to draw the Grand Fleet away from Terminus. But they would need more than just ground-based uprisings. They would need ships. Kim Bo, Hanwoo said, how many other Valek's commanders might be willing to switch sides? More than you might think. The Valeks treat human auxiliaries as expendable. Many of us have lost friends and family to their casual cruelty. If they see that resistance is possible, some will join us. Over the next 3 days, a miracle occurred. The recordings of the Battle of Kepler reached not just human resistance cells, but human crew members serving aboard Valek's ships throughout the galaxy. When they saw what the Taeguk's fury had accomplished, many decided that the time had come to stop serving their oppressors. Ships began defecting from the Valek's fleet, first in 1s and 2s, then in entire squadrons. Human crew members overpowered their Valek's officers and declared for the resistance. Within 72 hours, the rebels had acquired nearly 200 ships of various classes. The vessels gathered at secret locations throughout the galaxy, preparing for the largest coordinated military operation in human history. Li Tae found himself commanding a fleet of converted mining ships and stolen patrol boats. Other resistance leaders took charge of battle groups formed from defected cruisers and destroyers. "This is insane," So-Ra said, looking at the tactical displays showing human forces scattered across 50 star systems. "We're about to attack the most powerful empire in galactic history with salvage ships and defectors." "Yes," Hanwoo agreed. "And we're going to win." Supreme Overlord Vexitar stood in his command center on the Valek's homeworld, watching as reports of defections and uprisings continued to pour in. The human rebellion had grown beyond anything his intelligence services had predicted. "Status of the reality anchor?" he demanded. "Construction is ahead of schedule," his chief scientist reported. "The weapon will be operational in 48 hours. Good. Once we can neutralize the human Dreadnought, we can crush these uprisings systematically." But Vexitar was about to learn that humans had one more advantage the Valeks had never understood: the ability to inspire others through their actions. Word of the growing rebellion was reaching non-human species throughout the galaxy. Worlds that had been conquered by the Valeks centuries ago were beginning to wonder if they, too, could be free. The tide of the war was turning, and the Valeks Empire was about to face the consequences of 500 years of oppression. The humans had shown the galaxy that the supposedly invincible empire could be defeated. Now, every oppressed species in known space was watching to see what would happen next. The final battle began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time. Across 50 star systems, human resistance forces launched their attacks simultaneously. Mining ships converted into bombers struck Valek's supply depots. Stolen patrol boats attacked communication relays. Defected cruisers engaged Imperial garrison fleets in desperate battles among the stars. Li Tae led the assault on the Arcturus mining colonies, commanding a fleet of 30 ships against a Valek's defense force twice their size. But the human crews fought with a determination that the Empire had never faced before. They were no longer fighting for conquest or territory. They were fighting for the right to exist as free beings. "All ships, remember why we're here," Li Tae broadcast to his fleet. "Every Valek's ship we destroy here is one less defending the reality anchor. Every minute we hold their attention is another minute for the Taeguk's fury to reach Terminus. In the Terminus system, Supreme Overlord Vextar watched his tactical displays with growing alarm. Red warning lights indicated attacks throughout his empire. Requests for reinforcements were flooding in from dozens of worlds. "How many systems are under attack?" he demanded. 53 confirmed, his intelligence chief reported. "The humans are hitting us everywhere at once." Status of our defense. Fleets. Admiral Zektar is requesting immediate reinforcements for the core worlds. Admiral Mordan reports heavy losses in the Outer Rim. The human forces are fighting with unprecedented coordination. Vextar faced an impossible choice. He could keep his grand fleet concentrated around the reality anchor, but that would mean losing control of half his empire. Or he could divide his forces to defend his worlds, but that would leave the weapon vulnerable to attack. He made the decision that would doom his empire. "Detach 600 ships to reinforce our threatened systems," he ordered. "Keep 400 here to defend the reality anchor." As Valak's ships jumped to hyperspace to defend their colonies, the Taeguk's fury materialized at the edge of the Terminus system. So Ra had pushed herself beyond her limits once again to make the journey. But this time, she wasn't alone. Kim Bo and 50 other human defectors had linked their minds to the reality engine, sharing the burden of manipulating space-time. "Target acquired," Ghost announced. "The reality anchor is a massive installation built into the system's largest moon. Defensive forces include 400 capital ships and orbital weapons platforms." Han Wu studied the tactical display. Even with reduced numbers, the Valak's fleet was still 10 times larger than anything humanity had faced before. But they had advantages the Empire couldn't understand. "Open a channel to all human forces," he ordered. Park Jun activated the communication system, broadcasting to every human ship and ground force throughout the galaxy. Millions of people fighting for their freedom suddenly heard their captain's voice. "My fellow humans," Han Wu began, 500 years ago, our ancestors built this ship to defend our freedom. Today we finish what they started. Today we show the galaxy that the human spirit cannot be conquered." He paused, looking around the bridge at his small crew. So Ra was at the reality engine controls, her face pale but determined. Park Jun was coordinating communications with resistance forces across the galaxy. Kim Bo stood at the tactical station, ready to redeem herself for 20 years of service to humanity's enemies. "Ghost, link every human in the galaxy to our reality engine. It's time to show the Valaks what we're really capable of." Across 50 star systems, in hidden colonies and secret bases, on captured ships and liberated worlds, millions of humans suddenly felt their consciousness expand. The reality engine reached out through space and time, connecting every free human in the galaxy into a single, unified will. The collective imagination of an entire species flowed through the Taeguk's fury. Farmers dreamed of crops that could grow in space. Engineers visualized impossible machines. Children imagined flying between the stars without ships. Artists pictured colors that had never existed. All of these dreams became reality. The space around Terminus transformed into something beyond the Valak's understanding. The laws of physics bent and twisted as millions of human minds worked together to reshape the universe according to their collective will. Gravity flowed like water. Light became solid. Time moved in spirals instead of straight lines. The Valak's fleet found itself trapped in a maze of impossible geometry where up and down were meaningless concepts. Their weapons fired at targets that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Their shields tried to deflect attacks that came from the past and future at the same time. "What is happening?" Vexitar demanded, watching his tactical displays show readings that made no sense. "The humans appear to have connected their entire species to their reality-warping technology," his science officer reported. "They're not just bending space-time. They're rewriting the fundamental laws of the universe." On the Taiguk's Fury, Sora felt the incredible power flowing through the reality engine. Millions of human minds were contributing their creativity and imagination to the ship's capabilities. She could feel the dreams of children on distant worlds, the hopes of refugees in hidden colonies, the determination of resistance fighters throughout the galaxy. "The reality anchor," she announced. "I can see it. I can feel how it works." The Valek's weapon was designed to stabilize space-time and prevent reality manipulation. But it operated on the assumption that reality was something to be controlled through technology. The humans had a different approach entirely. Instead of trying to control reality, they became one with it. The collective human consciousness reached out and embraced the reality anchor itself. Instead of fighting the device, they welcomed it into their shared dream. The weapon that was designed to prevent reality manipulation became part of the reality manipulation itself. "Impossible," Vexitar whispered as he watched the reality anchor transform before his eyes. The massive installation began to glow with warm, golden light. The cold metal structure sprouted gardens and forests. Crystal spires grew from its surface, singing with harmonies that could be heard across space. The weapon designed to enslave human imagination had become a beacon of human creativity. Admiral Kim Bo stood at the tactical station, tears streaming down her face as she felt the connection to millions of her fellow humans. For 20 years, she had served the Valek's empire and forgotten what it meant to be part of something greater than herself. Now she remembered. "Captain," she said, her voice filled with wonder, "the Valek's fleet is surrendering." Throughout the Terminus system, Valek's commanders watched their instruments show impossible readings. Their ships were being transformed by human imagination, turning from weapons of war into vehicles of exploration and discovery. Weapons systems became scientific instruments. Armor plating grew into gardens. Command centers filled with art and music. The Valek's crews found themselves unable to feel the cold anger that had driven their empire for centuries. The human reality field was affecting them too, showing them emotions they had forgotten they possessed. Compassion, wonder, hope. "All Valek's vessels, this is Supreme Overlord Vexitar," came the transmission from the Imperial flagship. "Cease all hostile actions. Stand down and prepare for negotiations." Han Wu smiled as he felt the collective will of humanity flowing through the ship. "Open a channel to the Supreme Overlord." Vexitar appeared on the main screen, but he looked different than before. The harsh lines of his face had softened, and his large black eyes showed something that looked almost like curiosity. "Captain Han Wu," he said formally, "what are your terms?" "Complete independence for all human colonies and settlements," Han Wu replied. "Freedom for all enslaved humans throughout the galaxy, and reparations for 500 years of oppression. And in return, we help you build a better galaxy. Humans don't want to conquer or rule. We want to explore, to create, to discover new things. We'll share our technology and our knowledge with any species that chooses peace over war." Throughout the galaxy, the synchronized human uprisings achieved total victory within hours. Valek's garrison forces, cut off from their command structure and affected by the reality field emanating from Terminus, simply laid down their weapons. Many Valak soldiers asked to join the humans they had been fighting, curious about this species that could turn war into art. Lite stood in the command center of the newly liberated Arcturus colonies, watching as human and Valak's workers collaborated to convert weapons factories into research facilities. The transformation was happening everywhere at once, driven by the collective human imagination that was reshaping the galaxy. "This is incredible," he said to his communications officer. "The Valaks aren't just surrendering, they're asking to learn from us." "What should I tell them?" "Tell them the same thing we tell everyone. The only requirement for freedom is the willingness to let others be free too." On the Teguk's Fury, Sora finally disconnected from the reality engine and collapsed into a chair, exhausted but triumphant. The strain of linking millions of minds had pushed the system beyond all design specifications, but it had worked. Humanity was free. "Ghost," she said weakly. "Status report on human settlements throughout.